Greetings one and all. Wing 3 of LFR is now open and available for all to play. So, I think it's high time we discuss the state of the story up until this point and what the ending for the Eternal Palace may mean going forward. So, as many of you may be aware, I have been quite critical of the story of BFA. In fact, before BFA even came out, I was incredibly critical of Before the Storm, which I thought was a particularly poor World of Warcraft book, given the quality that we have had previously. Not only for the way it portrayed the characters, but the very story itself, and how it was supposedly creating this cataclysm of war that we were going into, where literally the might of the Alliance we pitted against the might of the Horde in the battle to end all battles. And what do we now have? Before 825 has even come out, yes, we are back to Care Bear Land, where we are peacefully hugging each other, but shh, don't tell Mummy, she might spank us. Yes, the Horde and the Alliance, believe it or not, have just discovered that it works when we work together. They've never done this before, and it has shocked them to the very core of their being. Yes, we hadn't just defeated Sargeras, the expansion, before. Maybe even, I say, arguably, a greater threat than N'Zoth. But yes, we had forgotten about this. We now hated each other to our very cores. And now we don't. Now we believe that we need to work together should we need to defeat this greater threat. Shock horror. Now, this has been like chum in the water to the sharks of YouTube. And they've been able to do lots and lots of clickbaity videos stating you have no idea what's in store for you in 825 or 835 shock horrors. I'm looking at you, Bellular. I'm looking at you. Yeah, you know. No, don't look away. Don't get up off your sofa and walk off. Yes, I'm looking at you. But although it has been a great time for those guys, for us on the ground, it has not been so good. This has probably been the poorest story we've had to deal with in a long time. And where many will say that, in fact, I was looking at the features that we were going to have in BFA, and they just didn't excite me, and it looked like Legion 2.0. All valid arguments. I would always state, and I've said so in previous videos, any good immersion, any excitement that we're going to have for an upcoming expansion comes from the story. And the reason I say that is even raiders will turn around and say, okay, this is the story. This means I'm going to be facing X, Y, and Z boss. That excites me. The potential that at the end of this expansion I could be meeting Sargeras. At the end of this expansion I could be meeting Sylvanas. At the end of this expansion I could be meeting N'Zoth. At the end of this expansion I could be meeting the Lich King. Whatever it may be, I know that this could potentially be coming up, and that excites me. The potential for where we're going in dungeons will excite people. But all of that comes from the first kernels that we have of what the story is going to be. And this story did not excite. It did not. It was like a wet fart because it made no sense. It made literally no sense. We have just fought at the very beginning of Legion a battle that was disastrous for both the Alliance and the Horde. Especially so for the Alliance. They lost probably the greatest general they had. We lost our war chief, who had been war chief for about 30 seconds, and if I remember correctly, turned up once at the end of my level 3 garrison and said, "Good job, man. You got a level 3 garrison." And I never saw him again. So, it wasn't such a huge loss for us. Obviously, I love the character of Vol'jin, but in terms of a war chief, he had not yet, sadly, been able to cement his position as a legend. Now, after this disaster, of course, we separated. We became our different classes. So the Warlocks went and did their Warlock thing, Paladins did their Paladin thing, Priests did their thing. We separated down and then came back together to fight this common foe. But we did not use the factions. And right there was potentially the seed going forward. If they wanted to truly destroy the factions, which I think is a ridiculous prospect and extremely unlikely to happen, in terms of the factions just being destroyed and being amalgamated into a Care Bear group that is just wonderful, happy, super full of fun. Which sadly you will notice when you take all character, you take conflict, you take personality from a group, what are you left with? And this is not a dig, you're left with the Alliance. When was the last time there was a good Alliance story? Sadly, it has been too long, and I've said that again in numerous videos, that the Alliance have been wanting for a good story, be it internal conflict, be it the Alliance against something, and I don't mean the Horde, that they're struggling with, would have been fantastic, would have been interesting. Even to have, and I understand a lot of people will go, that would not be exciting at all, the simple concept like, okay, and picture this, clear your mind, picture this. We come back from war, from fighting the Legion, from beating Sargeras. Anduin is a new, untested king. Now, the war has been horrific, decimated. The soldiers wish to return to their fields. Crops need desperately to be planted if we are going to stave off starvation. But there have been brigands that have risen up while the troops have been away. There have been deserters from the army, those that didn't want to face the Legion. They have formed bands of soldiers. They now wander the countryside, not only looking for loot and treasures to steal, but also for food, because literally everybody in the kingdom is starving. And as these brigands roam the countryside, they force people from their homes. Those people move further, those that can't travel south, travel further and further north, eventually to the realms of Lordaeron, to the ruins of Lordaeron. And they're desperately hungry, they're searching for food, they're scavenging among the realm of the Forsaken. And yes, some of them start eating poisoned grain and such, because everything that's near Lordaeron is basically poisoned by the Blight now, and they're eating poisoned grain just to survive. And eventually, as the loyal soldiers of Stormwind, as these heroes that have returned from the battle start hunting and killing these brigands and trying to find survivors, they come across these bodies that have been poisoned by the Blight. They go to the wetlands, I believe it's called. Apologies, I'm not an Alliance player. They go to the wetlands, and this investigation, they discover that there's people, the town in the wetlands has been poisoned by people coming from the north who were desperately ill looking for help. Now this could be the first part of the expansion. Of course, upon hearing this, Jaina is suddenly faced with flashbacks of everything that happened with Arthas. The fact that the grain was poisoned by Kel'Thuzad, about how Arthas went storming after him, and how that cascaded into a chain of events that she could not control, and the horrors that she saw, that she witnessed at that point. And she desperately pleads with Anduin, you have to stop this now. This is not one of those things where you don't worry about it, you just see what happens, you have to crush it now. She also still has those horrendous feelings, the hatred for Theramore and the things that happen there, the hatred of the Horde is still with her, and she pushes Anduin, you have to fight. You've got Gen there going, Anduin, you've got to do this. They are poisoning us, and we don't have the strength. We literally have our armies ready to go now. They've just arrived from the Legion, or from the confrontation with the Legion. You need to fight now, because if we let them go back to our fields, or back to their fields, we will not be able to mass them again. This is it, do or die. The Horde are in the same position, but they are all over in Kalimdor. We have the chance to strike now. And he does. And he hits Lordaeron, and he hits it hard. But of course, Sylvanas has already had all of these things in place in case Lordaeron was ever attacked. And you can have it that literally the whole of Lordaeron just gasses. Just the whole of it just goes boom and just nukes. And then you have the Forsaken being very much like the Gnomes on the Alliance side, which is their home is irradiated. It's just gone. The Blight kills a vast proportion of the Forsaken, and that's it. Go just nuke. Now, you could have it that Jaina sees this, she witnesses this, witnesses hundreds, thousands of troops from the Alliance just dying because she was so desperate to chase this down. And faced with this new fresh horror, then she goes back home. She needs to find her parents. She needs to find just some semblance of hope, because she's just a broken person by this point. Anduin is faced with the true realities of war, and he tries to resurrect the people, but there's no winning it. There's no resurrecting them. They're dead. It's gone. And he's faced with the sacrifice that he sent all these troops to die. And all of a sudden, you've got interesting new character developments. We're only halfway through the expansion at this point, and then you can have it that the Horde hit back, and that Sylvanas is like, well, I'm taking something of theirs, and the only thing I've got near me is the elves. I'm going after the elves. And she goes and hits back at the elves, burning their home. Now, this is not people are going to go, you just want the Alliance to strike first. Don't care. Honestly, don't care. I joined the Horde because I thought the Horde were going to be the evil ones. I am a fan of Warhammer. I play orcs. I wanted to be the proper Warhammer style orcs. I fear that where we're going with the Eternal Palace and yet again our let's hold hands here and let's be super best friends, is that we're going to go down the road where we just have this dull, bland, semolina, couscous, vanilla tofu organization, this group. And yes, it'll still be the Horde, and yes, it'll still be the Alliance, but basically we just work together and we don't argue with each other. You know, we've got Bane in charge of the Horde, and we've got Anduin in charge of the Alliance, and we're all super best friends. And all it is now is this group against any threat that comes, and you're always best friends. And yes, there might be the odd argument here or there, and you might fall out a little bit, but nope, you're always super best friends, and you're just facing the next thing that happens. That makes for an incredibly boring, dull experience. You want the early phases of Game of Thrones. That's what you want, is when it's intrigue, when the factions are fighting not only themselves but internally, and they have other factors around them that they have to deal with that necessarily, you know, the Horde don't have to deal with. The Defiance Brotherhood is very much an Alliance issue. The Horde don't really give a flying fudge about that. The Alliance do. So those kind of things, all of that into the mix makes for interesting stories, because it makes it easier to have this homogenous blob against whatever evil they want to throw at it for the sake of storytelling, and also, let's be honest, for the sake of not having to do server transfers. Because if we're talking about it from a game point of view, if they've got the fact that all the Horde and the Alliance can always work together on everything, you want to do a 5-man, well, have 2 from the Horde, have 3 from the Alliance, that's fine. You want to do some raiding, have some people from the Alliance, have some people from the Horde, you can all work together, means they don't need to worry about server merging again. And as soon as they mention server merging, everybody will go World of Warcraft is dead, and share prices drop and everything else. Now, share value and everything else aside, what I would like to see going forward is them to stop using a top hat with cliched storylines in that they then pick out. What I can imagine is, okay, let's set the scene. I can see them there at the beginning of BFA, they're like, well, what are we going to have? Okay, hang on. Okay, it is, okay, I've got the name Sylvanas. Okay, cool, go again. And redemption arc. Ah, shit, we just did we do that with Illidan? We just did that, didn't we? Yeah, alright, alright. Get the redemption arc out. What are we gonna do again? Alright, I've got Evil War Chief. Evil War Chief, yeah, Sylvanas, Evil War Chief. Perfect. Alright, run with that, guys. That's BFA. Didn't we do that in Garrosh? No, it'd be nothing like Garrosh. It'll be completely different. Look, roll again. Roll. What are the Horde going to do about that? Roll again. There's going to be a rebellion against the Evil War Chief. It's quite like Garrosh, isn't it? Yeah, it does sound quite like Garrosh. Ah, sod it. We're done now, guys. It's lunch. Who wants Subway? Yeah? Okay, let's go.